So we started at the pumps today. What am I saying? We started at the charging station today because we are in an EV, right? So the thing is, when it comes to EVs, you need to plan properly. Like we are an infant when it comes to adoption of EVs. And because of that, of course, because we don't have a lot of cars on the road, infrastructure is also limited. So you need to plan properly. Like if we're going to be shooting the whole day, going up and down, leaving the city and so on, you need to have proper time management. I mean, if there's one thing I learned, the best way to enjoy this is that whenever you see a charger, juice it up. Don't wait for 10%, 20% and start panicking. Just juice it up. When you're shopping, when you're going out, eating, doing whatever that you're doing, if there's a charger next to you, it doesn't matter whether that charger belongs to another brand, competitor, whatever, there's no pride, we share. Just juice it up. Otherwise, welcome to the channel. It's Siwa behind the camera, and I appreciate that you're here with me today. And some of you have been here since day one. Guys, we've reached 10,000 subscribers on the channel. At some point, it looked like it's impossible. But all of you, your support, your love, your comments, your likes, your shares, everything has gotten us here. I know it is God's grace, and I am truly, truly grateful for this, truly appreciative of that. May God's light shine upon you as well. May we continue to grow. I really, really appreciate it. I don't even know how to express this gratitude, but you know what? I'm going to just take a moment, take a breather, and just thank you for it. Okay, so we are in the Mercedes-Benz EQB 350. This is the fully electric version of the GLB, which we once had here on the channel. GLB 220 MG line, beautiful spec. You need to go check it out if you want to remember what the GLB is all about, because we're still going to make a relation in this review. This one doesn't have an engine, of course. It's powered by dual motors, one at the back, one in front, and it's driven through all four wheels. Combined, they push out 215 kilowatts and 520 newton meters of torque. Those are not small numbers by any means, and that goes with the price as well, because to jump into one of these you need over 1.3 million rands, and to get it looking like this one and spec like this one, you're looking at nothing less than 1,460,000 rands. So yeah, it's safe to say this is not a cheap car. Please just bear with me. This camera keeps hitting my spectacles and I can't get it to stop. I don't know why. Back to that pricing issue. I mean, EV pricing is contentious, especially in this country. If I'm thinking about it, that believe it or not, in other countries, when you're buying an EV, you are being supported by the government, that you're actually saving the environment. There is tax savings on that. Here in South Africa, it's the contra. When you importing R1 million EV and R1 million petrol car, you're going to pay 60,000 rand more import duties on R1 million EV. So you are being taxed more to get an EV in this country. I don't know when and if it's ever going to change, but that's what it is right now. And then there's a matter of a lot of EVs, especially when it comes to the traditional manufacturers, they are still developing this technology and it costs a lot. I believe they're trying to recoup a lot of their money. Remember when we used to buy memory cards, like in the early stages of memory cards, when you used to buy 1 gig memory card, some of them were even 400 megabytes for like more than $300 or even $400 some. I believe that over time, the more we're getting these cars, the more the technology gets cheaper because of economies of scale. The prices will settle to acceptable levels for the masses. But for now, pricing is still a challenge. But that's not the only challenge, is it? There's still a matter of charging. Infrastructure, as I've already indicated, it's limited. It's not in every corner. It's not like I'm going to drive 5 kilometers and I'll find a charger, unless if I stay in the city. Like myself right now, I stay in places where there's just a lot of chargers. If you go to Google and say EV charging, that list is coming out, and then 10 kilometers, 7 kilometers, I can find one. But due to the way our country is structured, geographically, we are challenged. In places where people, like there's a lot of people in gases going out of the city and so on, you don't necessarily have this infrastructure. And that means you're going to need to have a garage to keep your car safe so that you can charge it overnight. I mean, there's a lot of people that fall within the living standard measure that can buy a million rands car, who can potentially be a big market for EVs, right? But they stay in complexes where there is no charging infrastructure, and at the same time, you park your car at your parking spot that doesn't have a wall socket where you can plug in and charge this car overnight. And that means you're going to rely on public infrastructure for charging, and that might sometimes feel like it's a chore, it's a job, because you have to go there for the sake of charging. Unless if in your complex you have a charging infrastructure that you can use, and then you know that you're going back to your apartment, which will help. And I believe most complexes, especially the new ones, are going to adopt this method. But for now, it's much better for someone who has a house and they know that they can just leave the car charging. If they want to go out to do something, they go out. And if they find a fast charger, then they can be able to charge. Talking about fast charging, this can be a little confusing. But let's start with the battery. This car has a 66.5 kilowatt hour battery, right? And to actually charge it from 0 to 100, I think, let me say for me, because I charged it from around 20% to 100, it takes about an hour or so. And that depends. It's not that all the chargers are going to give you that. A standard type 2 can take much longer to actually fill this car up. Maybe 4 or 5 hours, I think so. But a fast charger of around 100 kilowatts can even take less than that. Probably 30 to 45 minutes, it can be full. And that matters. When you're checking for chargers on Google, you should look at the kilowatts that charger has. The one that I used at BMW Club Motors, it's a fast charger, but it's a 50 kilowatt charger. And because of that, from 52% to 100%, it took around 40 minutes. So it matters how you're actually looking at this. Because, for example, when you're charging at home, if you don't have a wall box, you're probably looking at charging at around 2 kilowatts. And you can do the counts. It's going to take much longer, probably even 24 hours to actually fill this battery up. Okay, now we have to focus on this car as a car and not necessarily as an EV. And when it comes to the range, from full, Mercedes is claiming that it can give you around 395 to 426 kilometers. And yes, when you've charged it up, it shows that on the screen that it can give you around 396 kilometers. But I haven't gotten that in real life, of course, because it depends on how you drive as well. I've been getting just above 300, maybe around 320, 330, 340. And that depends a lot on how you drive. Rating consumption is actually quite easy in here because the car can tell you how far you still can go, the range, or you can even see what is your consumption. It's showing you in kilowatt hour to say 20 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers. This is a 66 kilowatt hour battery. That means you only have 300 kilometers or 300 and something in that case. That's as easy as that. And once you forget all these things and start focusing more on the fact that I'm in a car, I'm driving it, and I want a certain amount of performance out of it. I want a car to perform in a certain way. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, we have a performer here. The instant response on throttle input is mad. And the fact that it's a 4-wheel drive as well, it helps a lot because we had an EQA, and in the EQA, it has a single motor, which it's driven through front wheels in this case. And it's not as powerful as this. 140 kilowatts, 375 Newton meters of torque, if I remember very well. You could feel that those front wheels are struggling for traction at some point. But in here, this made me think that all EVs are supposed to have 4-wheel drive, simply for traction. Because when you are putting your foot down and it responds as quick as this, 2 wheels are not necessarily enough, but it depends as well in terms of how it's calibrated. And I didn't find the EQA to be as well calibrated as this in terms of how you need to hold on to the steering wheel so that you don't experience that torque steer. And if you're not a fan of rapid movement in a car, especially from standstill, you'll be happy to know that there's dynamic select here, which has like 3 driving modes, or 4 rather, because there's individual, there's sport, there's comfort, there's eco. And I think for people who don't want a car to be jumpy, eco might be your best bet, because when you put it on eco, it feels like it cut like half the power. You literally can feel that the car is becoming heavy on you, especially if you're moving, because the standard one is comfort. When you start the car, it's on comfort. When you move it to eco, you feel like it has cut some power. Literally, the throttle is heavy. The input doesn't move as quick as it's on comfort. When you move it on comfort, for me, I feel like they've done that on purpose, knowing that this is almost the perfect setup, where a person who's used to a powerful car, but that doesn't move off the line, like it's just zipping off the line, they will be okay with it. Then you can live with it like it's just any other normal car. On sport, I feel like it loosens things up, and then this, especially the throttle, I feel like it's more loose. Once you put your foot down, it's ready to jump. People might not enjoy that, but for people who love speed and power, that's where then you go in to feel like this is the best for me. But other stuff in the car, like the steering wheel, I don't feel like it's getting too heavy. It doesn't matter which mode you're on. It's just the throttle that I'm feeling that it's opening up as you go high up. Everything else, I'm not finding it to be like drastically changing. I think the suspension is the one that I can say when you're on spot, you can feel that actually the suspension is getting a little bit stiffer in how actually it's responding to the road, because you're starting to feel those imperfections on the road. You know, when you get those hard bumps a bit, you're starting to feel them a bit, coming a bit more into the cabin. But when you're on comfort, that's where it's completely different. If you have motion sickness, maybe as a passenger, it might be a little bit of an issue, because it creates this texture as if the imperfections on the road are deleted. I mean, our roads are not the smoothest in the world, but in this car, I find them to be like, yo, where is this coming from? I think it's because the suspension as well is responding to that, because this car is fitted with optional adjustable damping suspension that helps a lot, because, you know, it manages then to say, when I'm on comfort, I need to be on my most comfortable position. And that's exactly what it does. It doesn't miss on that. And one thing that separates this from the ICE sister, the GLB, is the tires. The kind of tires that are here are different to the ones that are on the GLB. That is because EVs are heavy. I mean, this thing weighs more than 2.1 tons, and the GLB is sitting at just above 1.6 tons. So you can imagine, you need tires that can be able to handle that weight. But they don't only have that advantage. These tires that are here are the same size actually, 245 or 235, I think it's 235, 45, 20-inch tires. So if I'm looking at that, I'll say, okay, it's the same tire. But this one, the Pirelli P0 that's here, it's an elect tire, which is for EVs, and it helps with the tire roll. But the biggest thing is the comfort level that comes with it, because it reduces the noise in the interior. The road noise in here is quite minimal compared to the GLB. That GLB reminds me of the Seatlers. You know, these low profile tires are very loud and they're uncomfortable, but in here it's completely different. The suspension and the tires are doing a great job at that. And you know what, for a body like this that is also made to accommodate 7 seats, I'm quite impressed with the wind noise. It's quite minimal, and I think much of it is because wind noise mixed with road noise can be a little loud, but in here I'm finding it to be much better than the ICE cars. When it comes to living with it every day and driving it every day, short distances, long distances, you will need to get used to the regenerative braking that is happening here, because it has 3 options. It's either you drive it like a normal car, or you make it to have some harsh braking, and then there's a normal one where it starts with. When it's on D, a normal drive, you get regenerative braking, but it's not as harsh, it's not as hard. When you leave in the throttle, it starts braking, but it's not as harsh. You can get used to it easily. But if you press this pedal on the left, which is a minus, it goes to D minus. Then that braking, it's crazy. I can't get used to that braking. It needs perfect timing because it brakes hard. It doesn't stop entirely, but it brakes hard. Then when you jump to the plus side, you make it D plus. It's like a normal car. It doesn't do regenerative braking whatsoever. When you lift the throttle, it drives like any other car. A lot of people who are jumping into EVs for the first time will prefer that mode. But after living with it for some time, I like it on normal. I mean, you can just time it, and you know that if the traffic light is this far and I leave the throttle, it's going to start braking, and then it's going to get me there. Regenerative braking, the importance of it is that when it's doing the regenerative, it's self-explanatory. It's recharging actually, and that's when then you save some power. You get some more power when you're on the road. When it comes to features and practicality, I mean, this is a spacious car. I don't even think I can complain about the space. This car has space for days, and I don't want to repeat the same stuff that we would have said in a GLB review. If you want more information and just walk around the car, everything else around that in terms of practicality, you can literally just check the GLB. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The features in here even quite less than what you can expect the GLB 220D AMG line at a price point that is just even below this one. And that's the thing that might be a little bit disappointing for you, because, for example, it doesn't come with a 360-degree camera. That means the augmented reality navigation is not in here. These seats that we are on right now, manually adjusted. I don't even know why is that. I mean, the only thing that you can adjust here, I think, is the lumbar support, but otherwise there is nothing else. No heated seats. You not getting ADAS system that is like adaptive cruise control. There is no lane departure warning or lane keeping assist. Those kind of things, I think they would have added much more joy even to that price point. But right now, because they're not there, yeah, you get that sense of saying, you know what, man, because of that, I'm worried about the price. I mean, some of these things you can get as options, but it's going to shoot the price up way above this already expensive price, and at that point you might be discouraged. For example, just to add lane keep assist in here and traffic sign recognition, you're going to pay like an extra 13k or something, so you can imagine. The cabin space hasn't been reduced at all. It's just that in the boot, there is some reduction of space compared to the normal GLB. I think this one is below 500 liters. That one is above, but at the same time, there is some underfloor space that you can still use. The only disadvantage is that looking at the bags that they give you for the cables here, they're eating up some boot space. And yeah, I don't know if you can just get these cables and put them under the floor so that you can have much more space. But because this is a square shaped car, I'm not finding it to be problematic in space at all. And then I want us to touch on the overall design compared to the GLB, because yeah, I wanted to end with the design because looks are subjective. Looks are very subjective. Look, for me, the interior design, the quality and everything, I think there are elements that maybe the quality could have been better, especially because there are plastics that are just doing some little bit of squeaks and rattles when you're driving like through hard bumps and so on. And for a car that is comfortable as this, like I said, with the suspension, that can be a little bit worrisome. From the design point of view, this is the previous gen Mercedes design. I loved it from the very first time I saw it. The steering wheel, amazing. I mean, I'm gonna miss the steering wheel because I know the next generation is not gonna have this. Then when it comes to the exterior design, yeah, I mean, these rims, hallelujah. I mean, Mercedes is killing it when it comes to rims. These EV rims are amazing. I love them. The 20-inch, they're beautiful, they're amazing. The rear, I love it. I love this rear, simplified, light bar. I mean, that's the language right now, right? Especially when it comes to EVs. Why not? When you're looking at it overall from the side, you know, I always love the GLB because it looks like the baby GLS, you know. The size, it's just amazing. I love it the way it looks. The boxy shape, for me, I'll always prefer boxy shape over curvy shapes. That's one thing about it. But then I need to look at the car from the front, and I am not convinced with the design, especially in front. This grille, I understand that it's an EV and aerodynamics and everything else. You need to protect that and put this close to the grille and so on. But maybe there's another way to do this. I mean, I've seen the updated EQB, and that grille, it looks nice on paper, but I'm not sure if it's going to give me that thing that a standard grille can give me. Because when I'm looking at the GLB, yeah, for me, that works. I mean, that standard grille, maybe it's because we're just used to the way things are and we get accustomed to that all the time. But hey, I think for me, the GLB looks much better, and that's what I'd go for from the design point of view. Overall, as an EV, this experience for me, it was quite interesting, it was quite amazing, and this particular one impressed me much more than the EQA actually, because of the power, because of the comfort that it has as well. It impressed me. I mean, I didn't think I was going to enjoy the silence as much as I did when I was testing this car. I mean, testing this car made me enjoy the silence. There's just peace about it. Even putting the aircon high up, blowing, it was annoying me because it's making noise. I was just enjoying the silence. I didn't think that was going to be the case. And yeah, because this is the first generation of EVs, I believe that a lot more is still going to improve. Like I've seen with the incoming updated EQA, the range has increased as well. It's now sitting at above 500 kilometers. So I would believe that the EQB is going to get improvements as well. And yeah, looking at the overall package, I think the biggest downfall here will definitely be pricing, because when I'm looking at the ones that are listed right now on Mercedes website, a lot of them are above 1.5 million. And yeah, it's not every day that people are buying those cars. But hey, I think even Mercedes-Benz South Africa knows that this is not targeted at everyone. For those that they're targeting, if you're looking for an EV, this is one to consider. There is a lot to be interested about. For me, the most impressive is definitely the power and the way it's so confident on the road. With that said, I hope I fed some of your curiosity today. Thank you so much for being here with me. Really appreciate it, and I am out.